These have a great fragrance.
Alaska peonies, until recently, relatively unknown to florists across the country. Ahead on Frontiers, reasons why business is booming in Homer.
We are highly dependent on bringing food up from the lower 48 right now and around the world.
The next generation of farmers, the need to plant seeds for tomorrow.
Eating well is so easy to do, and it's so attainable that everybody should be doing it.
From garden to bowl, how volunteers feed the city's most vulnerable with the best they can grow.
Alaska, where there are old triumphs, but also new frontiers, with challenges as great as the state itself, but a belief the best is yet to come, bringing you the faces, the places, and the spirit of the last frontier. This is Frontiers with Rhonda McBride.
Welcome to our program, in which we explore the frontiers of Alaskan agriculture. Abraham Lincoln once said, "The greatest fine art of the future will be to make a comfortable living from a small piece of land." That's a Homer family's dream on a few plots of land where they planted peonies. In China, peonies have more than 2,000 years of history. But on the shores of Kachemak Bay, peony patches like this one are relatively new to the landscape. Big and beautiful, fragrant and fragile. They grow from June to early September, and the first to flower are at sea level.
You don't have to have 10,000 acres to grow some peonies.
But high on the hillside near Homer, you'll find fields not quite ready to bud.
Is it your field of dreams? Well, I hope so, yes.
Ina Jones is a member of the Alaska Beauty Peony Cooperative, made up of 8 farms in the Homer area.
So when I have a question, I can just pick up a phone and say, help! And they're more than glad, to give me their advice.
A good thing, because it takes patience to grow peonies.
Sometimes the peony roots, when you plant them that first year, they may not come up that next summer.
It took 3 years for Ina's plants to reach maturity. And now, for the first time, she can turn her attention to the buyers.
These have a great fragrance. And they will fill your house, brighten your day.
The peonies must be harvested now, just before the buds unfold. They'll get their chance to bust open soon enough. As the peony season in the lower 48 fades, florists look north to Alaska.
They love our peonies. Our peonies are brighter, pinker, redder, whiter, bigger, better. I don't know whether it's the cold winters or the cool summers.
A Chicago florist told her he couldn't believe their size.
Those things are as big as my head. And I said, yeah, some of them can get as big as your head.
The absolute best for bridal bouquets. Ina loves how this crop is a good fit for her small family farm, which her husband's parents homesteaded. They raised mostly cattle and hay, grew their own food, and worked together as a team. But no one foresaw the day peonies would take root in these old cow pastures.
The whole family pitches in on it, and it's not a full-time occupation, like taking care of cattle is like a year-round thing.
A gentle mist of rain helps to clear the sap from the buds, as Ina's daughter Vicky helps with the harvest.
Being able to take a corner of a cow pasture and turn it into a profitable peony field seemed like a really good way to use our resources.
Coda, the corgi, keeps watch over the work. Coda's main job, to keep the cows away from the peonies.
Okay, good girl.
These stems are cut early to extend the flower's shelf life.
Sounds like he may want 1,000 whites to go to Puerto Rico.
To cut down on the freight, the stems are stripped of most of their leaves.
One's a little short. We want 24-inch stems.
Although it's taken time to figure out how to cultivate business, Ina would like to see more farms.
If someone wanted to grow peonies, go for it. I think the more the merrier.
Her only advice: to start small. Once the peonies are bundled up, they're stored in the cooler where they can sleep for up to 6 weeks.
Turn him around.
Ina's grandchildren are the first generation to grow up with the peonies.
It's fun weeding if you have this right job. Like my brother, he dumps the buckets. Once you finish this field, then you go to the next field.
For the Joneses, the land is where their values live. No matter the crop, it all comes down to family and hard work. And now, the peonies are a part of that life. One of the special things that we found out during our visit to the Alaska Homestead Peonies farm, not all varieties of peonies smell alike. There are subtle differences in their fragrance. Well, still ahead, Jeff Lowenfeld's the go-to gardening guy, here to get down and dirty with us. What makes Alaska soil so special? As the appetite for local produce grows, will there be enough farmers? How one program hopes to meet the need.
I just want cremation.
No hidden costs, no add-ons.
Cremation is much more affordable.
Dignified, ecological.
I just want something basic. The simpler, the better.
Cremation sure makes a lot of sense. The Cremation Society of Alaska is now serving families in Anchorage and in the Valley, and we are always on the web at alaskacremation.com. Call us today at 277-2777 or in the Valley 373-8627.
I have prostate cancer and just completed my treatments. Just 5 short visits in 1 week. Flying into Anchorage for other treatments would take weeks or months. CyberKnife got me back to my home and back to the outdoors in just a week.
CyberKnife is a non-surgical treatment with pinpoint accuracy. It's surgical precision without surgery. Call Alaska CyberKnife Center at Providence Cancer Center to see if CyberKnife treatment is right for you.
When I was diagnosed with brain cancer, I went through 8 months of intensive chemotherapy. And when Make-A-Wish came along and I got to go on my wish, it really gave me a break from all of that and gave me a really fun experience. Make-A-Wish gives you a little bit of your life back when illness takes so much away from it. And that's something medicine can't do.
All my life I've been in the outdoors. I remember being a kid when I was 12 years old, studying water temperatures off New Zealand to see if that was going to turn into a tropical storm, which will turn into a hurricane, and what way is the jet stream going to push it out in the Pacific? Does that mean Southern California is going to get monster waves? I was a windsurfer, and I had to study the weather when I was in my early 20s doing my windsurfing. And I realized I've been practicing this all my life, and finally I got smart, and I realized this is what you'll do.
Alaska has been a big part of the farm-to-table movement, but as more families embrace it, the big question, are there enough farmers in the pipeline? Lauren Maxwell takes us to a place that aims to train a new generation of growers.
Spring Creek Farm sits on an old homestead in Palmer.
The dining hall wants 5 pounds of kale, choy.
Operated by Alaska Pacific University, this working farm is also a learning farm.
These guys have been loving this weather for sure. How massive they are.
That aims to introduce a new generation to what is now an aging profession.
The average age, I believe, is 58, 59. This produce just was picked.
Farm manager Megan Talley teaches the basics of modern farming.
We have to be business people. We've got to know how to market. We've got to know the specifics of how to grow, which, you could spend a lifetime learning how to do.
In this case, students and interns spend a season. They learn to grow and harvest vegetables and get them ready for market to sell. But it's more than that.
I just can't think of a better way to spend a day, honestly.
Mackenzie Stamey is spending her second summer at the farm. First as an intern, now as a paid staff member. For her, food security is a major issue.
We are highly dependent on bringing food up from the lower 48 right now and around the world. And I think that we would be more resilient as a state if we had more farmers, especially young farmers.
After a stint in the Peace Corps, she plans to come back to Alaska and make agriculture a career.
You know, we always want to go with what we know works and then also try something new every year.
Tally says getting people interested in farming is a major goal.
We do want to focus on what it would be like to run a farm as a business.
But not the only one.
Has Joshua been having you guys clip the roots out here?
She says giving people the opportunity to work the land brings other benefits.
They'll be better consumers, they'll know more about food policy, they'll understand the bigger system.
And in the end,
you got that? What do you want to do? Side by side?
Develop a better appreciation for the work involved when it comes to feeding Alaskans' growing appetite for eating local. For Frontiers, I'm Lauren Maxwell.
Spring Creek Farm sells their produce at the APU's Farmers Market every Thursday from noon to 6. And you can also subscribe and get regular food deliveries. Well, we have gardening expert and author Jeff Lowenfeld with us here to talk more about this food-to-table movement and how to grow bigger and better gardens. You have the reputation for having the longest-running gardening column in North America, so you've been at it a long time. Are you glad to see sort of this renaissance in growing things in Alaska, growing local?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so important, not only that people learn how to grow for themselves, but for our economy. My goodness gracious, if we don't have a source of fresh food, we're not going to be a great place to live, that's for sure.
Well, it seems like we've gone through this long journey. People, of course, recognizing those big giant cabbages in the Matsu, but not realizing that they can grow things in a cold climate.
Right. Yeah, and I think what's happened is two things. One is the climate's gotten better. We've got a much longer growing season. It's doubled in 100 years. So we have 137 days now. It used to be 60 or so about 100 years ago. That has helped. We can grow almost anything now. We can even grow this year tomatoes outdoors. That's unheard of in Alaska anyway. And the second thing is we've got such a phenomenal opportunity to get things that we weren't able to get before. Our nurseries are bigger and better. Mail order recognizes Alaska as a state where they can mail things, and so we're able to get stuff that we could never get before.
Well, one of the things that you were involved with is establishing the botanical gardens in Alaska. Why did you do that?
Well, I believe a city needs a botanical garden to be a great city. It's where people learn how to make their city beautiful, how to make their own gardens gorgeous, how to learn how to garden. But the other thing is, in a place like Anchorage, a botanical garden has the potential of keeping tourists here and attracting tourists here. And we've got a world-class botanical garden growing right here in Anchorage, Alaska. The rock garden, for example, there is literally internationally famous. People in Anchorage don't know about it, but it is an unbelievable gem, and so are the other gardens.
So how do we compare to other states in terms of our gardens? Are they outstanding?
They are outstanding. First of all, I think we probably have the highest per capita gardening anywhere. You go crazy in the winter, so you have to do something in the garden in the summertime. The other thing is we grow tremendous amounts of flowers along with our food. Maybe it's because we were sick and tired of growing kale and cabbage and broccoli, things kids don't like to eat for so long, that we got into the flowers. But if you go to the botanical garden, you'll see a display garden that represents the 1915 gardens that we had when Anchorage was founded. And it's absolutely spectacular. So you can learn a lot of stuff from the old days as well as what we're learning in the new days here.
And we're talking about the new days with the peonies, that people have taken what was a favorite garden flower, now turned it into a cash crop.
Well, not just the peonies, but also the farmers markets we have all around town. The ability to be able to get fresh food, fresh flowers, it's absolutely spectacular. And it's growing into little industries. This peony industry could be very, very big. And there might be other things, who knows? So.
Well, what is it about the peonies you think that makes it so successful?
Well, there's no question. It's that we can grow them when nobody else can. And at least we can grow them in numbers when nobody else can. The other thing, of course, is our soil. We have the finest soils on the face of the planet, without question. First of all, they haven't been destroyed by hundreds of years of plowing and rototilling. They haven't been destroyed by applying tremendous amounts of pesticides and herbicides on them. So we've got an opportunity here to be an organic source for foods, for example.
So do you think that we are a frontier for agriculture because of our circumstances?
We definitely could be. I know that the Agriculture Division of Agriculture has been approached by China to buy potatoes, seed potatoes from Alaska. There are all sorts of opportunities here because we have enough room to be a breadbasket. And now that we've got 137 days of growing as opposed to 60, we might be able to fulfill the opportunity to be a breadbasket.
Now, with the peony farmers, they do worry that there are other parts, right across the ocean from us in China and Russia that could launch competition. And
I'm sure they will, but the market, A, is huge. And the other thing is we're Alaskans. And I think we've got the jump on them. We're going to be in a situation where we've got enough peony growers here so that we'll have the facilities, the buyers will come here. They come and they buy thousands and thousands. These are individuals who buy for places all over the world, and we've got the transportation system in place to be able to take these things out to any place in the Western Hemisphere in 8.5 hours.
Small airplanes that can...
Or big airplanes, for that matter. Hopefully, we were kidding around. So you have a shotgun wedding someplace in Israel, we can get the flowers to you in 8.5 hours.
Well, one of the things you brought up, the fabulous soils that Alaskans have.
Right.
And you've written not just one or two, but now 3 books about soil.
A trilogy. I like to call myself Lord of the Roots now.
Lord of the Roots.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had to throw that in there. But yeah, so our soil has been an inspiration to me, and it should be an inspiration to everybody who gardens here in Alaska. It's just spectacular soil. I'm very organic, and my first book is on the science behind organic gardening. And our soils are such a perfect example of how the system should operate before you come in and mess it up using chemicals.
Well, the 3rd book is coming out early next year.
Right.
So what will this 3rd book do? I mean, what is the message you want to get out with that?
Well, the first book talks about how the system works, how plants get their food. The second book talks about how plants eat their food and what happens to it once it gets in them. But the 3rd book is about the reason we have plants in the first place. These mycorrhizal fungi, 400 million years ago, associated with plants, and that's why we have trees. If it weren't for these fungi, we would not have terrestrial plants. Simple as that.
Now, I asked you to send me photographs, and I expected beautiful gardens.
Don't you think that's beautiful?
Well, it's interesting.
All right, well, so that's a special kind of mycorrhizal fungi that would infect perhaps your vegetables, and those are the spores, and you can see the little fungal hyphae there.
Now, you use the word infect.
Right.
And you don't associate that with a positive thing.
Yeah, so maybe, again, I should say they're attracted and they associate and form a symbiotic relationship. These look like salmon eggs. These are actually, again, spores of mycorrhizal fungi. And if you don't have these in your soil, you're not going to get the mycorrhizal fungi to grow, and you're going to have to feed your plants because that's what mycorrhizal fungi do. They feed the plants their essential nutrients. This is a set of tree roots, and you can see the fungi extending the area of the root, which is another thing they do. They're able to get to places the root can't get to. Very, very important.
That looks like an experiment in my refrigerator.
Well, those are fungi.
Corners.
Those are fungi. This one is the fungi that forms on trees. This is a pine tree that actually you see in your yard. The Amanita muscara, that beautiful red and with the white dots on it mushroom is very poisonous. That is the fungi that feeds the birch trees, for example, here in Anchorage. If you don't have these fungi showing up in your lawn, chances are your birch trees are not healthy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we have to pay attention to these things.
Oh, more than pay attention to them. Because what we've done over the years is we've learned how to destroy them by putting on fertilizers that prevent the plant from attracting them, by rototilling, destroying their environment. These are crucial to everything we do and everything we grow. Of all the books, this, I think, is going to be the most important one.
So
this is really
what led to your sort of aha moment about this?
It was Dr. Elaine Ingham and the Soil Food Web, but over the past 10 years, they finally figured out how these mycorrhizal fungi work. And it took that long. They were discovered back in about 100 years ago, and they didn't know how they worked. They couldn't duplicate them until about 15 years ago. So now we've got this brand new tool that's going to change the way we garden and change agriculture, without question.
Well, one of the things you were doing a few years ago was marketing Alaska soil.
Right.
Is there still a lot of potential for that?
Absolutely. Our soils have the highest microbiology counts of any soils on the face of the earth. We have the highest fungal counts, about 15,000 different kinds of fungi, and 35,000 different kinds of bacteria that we know of. And that means that when a plant attracts what it needs to eat, it's got a tremendous diversity to choose from. So the plant is in control. Our soil is like a smorgasbord, and the plant can get whatever it wants. That's not true in lots of places in the world.
One of the things I want to talk about is one of your pet projects from the past, Plant a Row for the Hungry.
Right.
That was a big campaign.
Right.
Are people still involved with this?
Absolutely. It started out as Plant a Row for Beans Cafe. The Garden Writers of America came to Anchorage and they were so impressed with the program they adapted it and adopted it. And today, 75 million meals a year are out of this program. And anybody who's listening to this show who has a garden should dedicate one row in that garden to take to beans or to the Seward Food Bank or wherever, or even just to give to a neighbor who needs it. We've got 35 million people going to bed hungry in the United States of America, and in Alaska, you can bet that number's very high as well, mostly kids.
Well, we're just about out of time, but I want to talk about your travels around the country. Mm-hmm. You're popular on the gardening circuit. What do you talk to folks down in the lower 48 about, and what do they want to know about us?
Well, what they want to know about us is Sarah Palin. Maybe now they want to know about Dan Sullivan, I don't know. They want to know how we grow those big cabbages. And I tell them how to grow those big cabbages. It's all about the soil, without question.
All right, well, we want to be sure and let our viewers know that we are going to have an extended web extra where we'll be talking about some of your favorite gardening tips. So be sure and join us for that conversation on the web. Well, still ahead, a place to go for a warm meal. How a local soup kitchen is making sure the most vulnerable have access to fresh garden food.
Excellent use of their money.
The Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium provides comprehensive health services for Alaska Native and American Indian people across our state. In addition to world-class care at the Alaska Native Medical Center, our work delivers health services for rural Alaska. From cutting-edge technology for the best care possible, to modern construction of clean water systems and health clinics, to health training and outreach that honors our culture, our vision is that Alaska Native people are the healthiest people in the world.
Learning happens everywhere. Each consecutive moment of life slowly transforms you into who you are. At IDEA, we believe learning happens best out there in the real world. No one knows your children better than you, and no one is better equipped to connect to them, to educate them, and to guide them along their path than you. Take control of the learning adventure. Take your child's education to the next level with IDEA. Homeschooling brilliance. Visit ideafamilies.org.
You don't have to live in a big city to be a foster parent. You don't have to have a big house, a fancy car, or lots of money. What you need is a home. What you need is a heart that can open to a child who needs you. Won't you become a foster parent today? A child is waiting. Call 1-800-478-7307.
To be an anchor is to stay in one place. But don't tell that to KTVA 11 anchor Emily Carlson. For Emily, journalism isn't a desk job. Because to understand Alaska, you've got to embrace it. Every corner, every season. Because an anchor gets rusty unless it keeps moving. Emily Carlson at KTVA 11 News. Be there.
We have a follow-up story that we first brought you in May about the rooftop garden at the downtown Anchorage Soup Kitchen. We showed you the garden just as the starts were planted. As Heather Hinsey shows us, it's time to savor this labor of love, which is both food for the body and for the soul.
Several different kinds of kale.
It's the ultimate urban garden.
Swiss chard, flat leaf parsley. It's just gorgeous.
Local greens tucked into every corner of the downtown soup kitchen's roof.
Normally I pick 2 large bags every other day.
Martha Jokala is a master gardener.
Oh, that fennel.
She volunteers her time on this produce patio to ensure people in need have enough to eat and that their food is as fresh and as local as possible.
I just think that eating well is so easy to do and it's so attainable that everybody should be doing it. And if anybody needs the nutrients and needs the kind of TLC, it's these folks who are forced to live on the street.
And we're going to add this to our tomato basil pasta soup.
Downstairs in the kitchen, Dave Sorensen puts the fresh herbs to good use.
And this is going to add just a nice background, support flavor for the basil.
He's been a fine dining chef for almost 3 decades, but now spends Tuesday mornings making soup.
So feeding the homeless doesn't mean that they're just getting leftovers or somebody else's hand-me-downs. This is actual real good food that I would be proud to serve in the restaurant.
Dave says he understands how important it is to have food that not only tastes good, but is good for you, especially if you're living on the streets where good nutrition is hard to come by.
I mean, I was homeless for a while when my parents divorced when I was a teenager, and I was here for a year volunteering before I realized why I had such a connection with our clients is because I was homeless at one time too.
Every day, volunteers will make enough to feed up to 500 people. They come from all walks of life, but all have one basic need, a nutritional meal to get them through the day.
This is the best food you can eat here. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. I wouldn't, I love coming here because they really have some really good, healthy meals here. I thank God for this place.
It's garden to bowl without ever having to leave the building. For Frontiers, I'm Heather Hinsey.
The soup kitchen spent hundreds of dollars on plant starts this year, so volunteers hope to get a greenhouse so they can grow plants on their own next spring. Well, we hope we've given you plenty of food for thought in this week's program, and we leave you now with scenes from the Peony Patches of Homer, set to the music of John Anderson from his Native Guitar Picker album. John is originally from Cordova. We'll see you next week.